Hello, YouTube. You get a special video. This wasn't really suited to live streaming. There's a live streaming. You watch the first 15 minutes, 60 minutes. If my niche still live stream, you'll get most of this. I wanted to come out and just get some actual thoughts on this. Uh, Not going to talk about Dante. Overguard nerf is what it is. It's not addressing the main thing people were complaining about, which is a long-standing thing that's not just an overguard problem. Crowd control, shield gates, all that disrupted chroma and rage, and combat discipline was the band-aid. Combat discipline doesn't work with overguard, and that's the big difference there. Line of sight on abilities, it's stupid because this rail is not blocking my sight, but it will block a line of sight ability, so will a dead enemy, another player, etc. That's the quick thoughts on Dante. I'm a big advocate of Fire Blast. I know all about line of sight. Ember video is still upcoming. Deep Archimedia. This is what we want to talk about. So, you can see I've already picked my loadout here, because we did do attempts. What broke those attempts, Lloyd? Calm yourself, Lloyd.
For we shall not return until the experiments are secure.
Lloyd. Thank you. We took an attempt. Our attempts weren't actually defeated by difficulty. They were defeated by bugs and host migrations. Sound familiar? Yes. D has yet again made a thing. You do these back to back. It goes straight into the loading screen for the next one. And yeah, one host migration, you're fucked. You're solo. There's also some other stuff we ran into. My melee, which was the only good weapon I had of all these choices, got locked into a weird... It was working, but it wasn't animated, and made it very difficult to tell whether I would hit, or what would hit, or where I was in the combo. Things like that. The second attempt we made, I got in there, I hung out for a while, showing why you don't want to use the Panthera on these enemies, for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and no matchmaking. I don't know if that's because I aborted out the other one after the host migration. It threw me into some sort of, like, fuck you lobby, you left a mission. I don't know if that's a thing in Warframe, but such as it is. So both our attempts defeated by bugs and host migration, all the classics. I'm not sure if host migration costs a reward. We did get a crimson. It didn't, because it's saved down here. We got a crimson shard for hitting this, so it does save those when you hit the unlock points. Apparently you can get it just by rewriting the first mission, which is what most people are probably going to end up doing. Run, abort, run, abort, run, abort on this mission, if they really want to be efficient, because you can get 5 points off that one mission. Actually, you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. You can get 9 points off running this one mission and aborting it, so it's 3 runs of this mission and you're done. Again, they know about that sort of thing. They know people will do it. It's in there. It's known. Totally undermines the reward system. Let's talk about the rewards. This wire arcane adapter is still in here, and what I assume is a regular melee arcane.
Really?
Not a legendary. This is your super duper endgame mode. I can walk over here and buy arcanes and melee adapters. They're not even expensive. That's sort of expensive. These are cheap garbage. Why is that the reward for your super endgame mode? Make it make sense, D. I'm just gonna talk over Lloyd. Reward number 2. Exact same rewards. Why are they there? The Archon shard, I mean, is fine. The melee, we're still treating that like some sort of a melee arcane adapter is nice. I'm pretty sure you can just buy them, even. Let me find a melee that I don't really use. It probably doesn't have an adapter. Tonbo. Never actually put an adapter in this. I have like 5 ribbons for it if you want to buy one for like 5 platinum. Yeah, I can just buy them for 20 plat. I can go run 2 spy vaults and get the plat to buy that, give or take, through trading. The fuck is it on the level of a Tau Forge shard for? 15. This is the real joke. 3 Entrati Lanthorns.
Master Entrati's good works via a 3-phase response. Prepare well.
I can take a Necros and get that in the Exterminate mission on the Zerman. I can get it from a regular Netracell even faster. The Tau Forge drops in the common. Again, the better than Tau Forge Archon shard is the Arcane Adapter. It's a joke. That's all I can do is laugh at. 25 unlocks immediately Archimedia. Late Archimedia is higher levels, so, you know, Sponge Fest. Which yields more research points per mission. If you've unlocked 25, you've finished the bar. You don't need more points. Is there a second bar? Did I miss something? We'll visit that in the patch notes in a second. Let's look at this. Frames. Random frames I'm not going to complain too much about. Frames are purposefully designed to all be usable. There's not that many of them, so they mostly keep on top of keeping them balanced. Weapons are not. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of weapons. I think, yeah, literally 3 sets of hundreds. Many of them are just not good. They're horribly outdated. They weren't good to start with. They're based on niche or novelty concepts that don't really work. Hardpack's a good example of that. The harpoon gun. Cool gimmick. Augment from Nightwave. Several years ago that occasionally comes up in Nora's store. Still doesn't make it worth a damn. So yeah, you can really get fucked on your weapon choices. I don't have a Cube of Karak. That would be the obvious choice out of these if I did. Panthera. Panthera is decent to good gun. Entirely slash-based, completely useless against the Murmur. Based on the mutators, there's none visible here, but you'll see in the patch notes when I get there. These are all going to be in the Sanctum, which in itself, boring. You're wearing that tile set to death at this point, because you're supposed to do this and 3 Netracells, and like everything is too concentrated in here with one faction. If you're gonna do this random stuff, you need variety. If you're gonna do weekly stuff, it needs to not be the same thing over and over and over again. And staying in the Sanctum with the 6 mission types that you can in here, that's not gonna do it. I'm not sure if the Assassinate can even come up in here. Secondary options here, the Angstrom's garbage, and they know that. That's why they put in Incarnate for it. Incarnates don't fix garbage. They just give you a reward for putting up with garbage. And that's a whole separate video I'm going to make at some point. Enough said. Bolto. The Bolto is a terrible weapon. It has a straight upgrade into the AK Bolto. There's no reason to actually keep the Bolto at any point for anyone, especially an in-game player. The AK Bolto even upgrades the AK Bolto Prime, but there is no regular Bolto Prime. That should never show up. There's no reason for anyone to ever have it. They won't have it. They won't build it. There's multiple cases of this in the pistol category. Quats. Quats is a fun little gun. It's quirky. It's not super effective. I did use it. I used it in one of the attempts for a bit. Because something caused my titanium not to have energy. So I was firing that for lack of a better option. Melee, you can get screwed on the melee because we've got Xmas and Necromex and everything. They're going to really go against status melee builds. We got the Skana, which I should have equipped, but apparently don't.
It was the speech, wasn't it?
Oh, because I just put the Tonmo on. Skana and Karnan's decent. You can heavy attack with it and kill things. If you get a heavy attack suitable melee and you've got to build on it, it will work. Because heavy attacks are ridiculous. Again, the weapons are what's going to screw you. You can already tell we don't have a good projectile weapon. That is going to screw up our DPS with Mag, who would otherwise be the best choice here because of the armor strip and the fact that we're fighting necromech enemies. Purdy is kind of in the middle, but I would really rather have a weapon. I could pull down the arc gun and use that with her. Titania obviously bypasses the weapon requirements. That's why we had her here. Also, her lantern's crowd control that isn't been turned into garbage against overguard units, so I was intending to use it for alchemy. Let's go over some mutators here. Lethargic shields, no one cares. That seems like you should care about it. It's a nice big number, 500% delay shields. Anyone who cares about shield recharge, they're using auger mods, they're using brief respite, they're using mags 4. That's not going to affect them at all, and no one else cares. Pointless modifier. Nice step. You have to jump. Or you lose an inconsequential amount of health every now and then. If you're not jumping, you're probably actually playing Titania and flying around. I haven't scienced it out to see if that actually does or doesn't cancel it. But yeah, knife step is a pointless. No one cares about having it. Almost every Warframe will constantly be jumping because you constantly do this. Even in combat, only a few very blasé players of Revenants and Rhinos and such. I'm not insulting them, but like, really stick to that playstyle. Just standing here, I shoot. Knife step's another basically pointless modifier. Anyone playing the game as Warframe won't be affected by this. Energy exhaustion. This is the fuck Atlas. But other than that, sure, you lose energy if you get into... And this is the problem. There's no good way to tell that range. 10 meters. Mostly melee. Shooting guys, you'd probably be farther back like this. Unless you're really aim pressured and in some extreme way. Okay. Over here, necromechs. Necromechs are horrible enemies. Both of them pull out an ability that stalls your ability to kill them. The bone windows, you can at least go around the shield and counterplay it. The void rigs is just... Here's invulnerability and also reflects your damage back at you for some random deaths. The only actual counter to that is the silence ability from Banshee, or Helmeth on to other people. That seems to have a 50-50 effect of actually working on the necromechs, to my experience. I think the steel path ones might be immune to it. D seems aware of this because those two abilities I just mentioned do not exist on the Demolist necromechs. Someone notes a shitty design and took it out for that mode, and only that mode. Can confirm this does not spawn the Demolist necromechs. Myopic munitions only take damage if a player is within 15 meters of them. Same problem here. What is 15 meters? It's over like here-ish. To my experience, that is if you're in 15 meters of them. There's no designate this guy to be the melee tank and send him up to the enemies. That said, I only had randoms available. I didn't exact science it. That one does show you, though. The enemy health bar will show as invulnerable. So, you aren't totally reliant on trying to fiddle around doing this to figure out why you're not doing damage to an enemy. Which is nice. I'll give them that point. Hazardous goods. Enforce will associate mental damage while being carried. Keep in mind, you're supposed to strategically plan for these missions. How would you strategically plan for that? As opposed to just, anti-damage. The only way you can do elemental damage. Hang on. There's a search term I found for it. Is these mods. Problem, M4s are random. You'd have to equip all 4 of these to actively counter that. Or have one person carrying each one and wasting a mod. I don't know what the fuck you're gonna do. Uh, it's so, like, also the amounts on these are, like, completely ass random. That one's an aura, even. There's antitoxin. Antitoxin's 45, and flame and propellant is 60%. Sure. I only have those because I use them on a limbo build as part of a silly video a while back. But yeah, that modifier, yeah, is just here's some random extra damage. You're not going to build around it. You're not going to build. You can't counterplay against it. You can't choose not to carry the M4. Most obviously, it would try and encourage you to throw the M4 from a longer distance, but I was just double checking the arcanes block the status, not the damage. Again, it's random shit. That that it doesn't fit in with the anything in the game. Or it's just inconsequential because the build to resist that damage is the same as any other survivability build. You make yourself immortal, you give yourself super regen with Wisp, what have you. Assuming you can choose to do that, because, you know, your choice is random. You can only the whole idea of you're supposed to specially build for this stuff versus here's random choices doesn't work. Fortified foes, oh, let's throw some Guardians in there just to be spongy. I don't really care. Guardians are not hard. Titania is a super counter them. You fly over their head and pop them from above. Other people jump over their head and pop them from above, or do a wall latch. I wouldn't personally choose to have it and don't find it interesting, but it's not obnoxious. Double Demolishers. Favorite thing on this entire list. It's the one thing I've seen that would maybe change gameplay. You get 2 Demolishers who will attack any conduit. I've not gone to the mission. I don't think they'll attack inactive ones, though. As if anyone's going to run more than one conduit at a time in this. So that might just turn into the pointless category for that particular part. But yeah, 2, split your Demolisher health into 2. You have to cover 2 directions. It does kind of minimize it. It doesn't overcome Disruption's problems of simply being a DPS target with a timer on it. And everything else in the mission being kind of inconsequential and pointless, but it's at least something that's sort of an interesting change. Enemy health slowly regenerates. Again, it's a pointless thing. No one half kills an enemy. Unless that regen blocks a DOT build. From working on them, it doesn't matter. Moving over to the actual patch notes. I want to review an actual set before, rather than just take some general thoughts. Let's see. From the patch notes, difficulty level, Deep Archimedia has an extremely high difficulty level that's designed to really put you and your arsenal to the test. Enemy levels. Fuck off. So I have enemy levels are difficulty. It's stupid sponge garbage. Warframe needs mechanics or AI revamps to get difficulty or more complex mission objectives. The elite one is the 400. It's got a dedicated section. We'll get there. You armor strip them, they're toast. It won't matter. There's a bunch of stuff about how to do this stuff. Enemies have their health and shields increased, an additional 50% for squad members, and there's more Xmas units. The Xmas units I'll give a half nod for being a gameplay adjustment. The rest is just spongy bullshit. No self-reviving. Last gas reduces your timers. Bleed out shortens. After being dead for 3 minutes, you incur mortar strikes. After 3 mortar strikes, you don't receive any more rewards for the run. I don't fully understand this. Like, you have to stay dead for 9 minutes to actually lose your rewards. But if you're dead, I guess you can die right before the end of the last mission, not fail horribly. Consumables have an increased cooldown for the energy restores and stuff. I mean, fine. That's fair enough. Most of the other editions, they don't let you use them, so. Individual parameters, loadouts. You have to keep your loadout through 3 missions. That's fine. The loadout being random, as I said, that's completely contrary to the idea of trying to build and apply in-game strategy. Particularly when the game is flooded with so many terrible weapon choices. I can just scroll through. I don't have every weapon. I can just scroll through here, though, and you can tell me how many of these you'd actually use. While we go through the rest. And then personal modifiers. Gear embargo. Gear can't be used. Most people won't care. A lot of gear is not particularly good. If you centered yourself with your build around energy pizzas for some reason, I guess. Powerless. All abilities are disabled until you kill 50 enemies. I'm not sure if that's you kill 50 or your team kills 50. I mean, that's not a difficult one to overcome, anyways. I'd put that in the pointless category for most frames. Secondary wounds gain a puncture status effect every time you take damage. Puncture makes you more vulnerable. No, puncture weakens your damage. So you just end up like eating a decaying dragon key or whatever it's called. I didn't memorize the dragon keys. Oh yeah. So yeah, just 80% minus to your damage. That one's kind of garbage. I'd probably not take it unless I had something that was actually invulnerable. Lethargic shields we already discussed. Ammo deficit. Ammo is reduced by drops, and gear is reduced 75%. Melee build doesn't care. Battery weapon build doesn't care. Other people might. Protea probably doesn't care. Fractured armor. Casting ability reduces armor by 10%. About 6 frames care about that, and the other, I don't know, 40 don't. Again, it's just an aggressive penalty. It's not something you can counterplay around. Like, if you assume I'm going to take Corvex here and whip him in, I'm just not going to take that modifier. Because I can't rebuild him to be shields or use invulnerability or anything like that particularly well. Not without formatting him, probably. So I'm just going to say no to that modifier in the situations. Untreatable. Pickups don't heal, and health orbs cannot be picked up. That's just a big fuck you to equilibrium builds. Again, making you choose a random frame and the way the builds exist in Warframe with Forma and being locked. Like if I go over here and this is an equilibrium build. If I go over, if I try and take equilibrium out of here and manipulate this around to be arcane grace instead, I could do it. It's sort of weird and janky. Ability duration is reduced by 75%. Again, just a big fuck you. There's no counterplay. Like, ability duration is reduced by 75%. Getting a kill extends your current ability's duration by 3 seconds. 1 second, even. How hard it is to make these things engaging. Same thing with fractured armor. If you want casting abilities to reduce armor, getting kills with ability puts the armor back. Or getting kills with melee puts the armor back. Or gives armor. Taking health damage consumes 5% of max energy per hit. Why don't you just say fuck you to the health frames? Surprising amount of health frames don't care. They're not that hard up for energy. But, yeah, again, it's just entirely negative. It doesn't add interesting gameplay. There's not really a choice with a random loadout to completely avoid damage. Transfers, distortion, transfers into your operator and drifter is blocked. I think I heard this already, but yeah, this is stupid. It's reductive gameplay. To try when you're making difficulty simply by subtracting entire mechanics from the game, you're not making good difficulty. You're making the worst difficulty possible. Operator doesn't regenerate energy, so you have to get energy orbs with your operator. Operator shares the energy pool with the warframe. Those aren't even good ideas in themselves, but they're better than that. Terminal velocity, you do 0 damage while not moving. See, that sort of forces you to move. You should be moving, I'm gonna say. The person that hates that's Mesa, specifically, and extremely. Also Nyx, if you're not running Assimilate. That's like so incredibly pointed at one warframe, which is Mesa, that it's like, what? And most of the rest won't care. Where was I? Frame curse, activated ability inflicts 50 damage on you. I mean, most people just push an operator button and can reverse like 800 damage. 50 is not going to deter you from abilities. There's a handful of frames might sort of maybe care about that. That said, they're just not going to take it, and I'll explain why just not taking it works in a second here. Nice step. We covered energy exhausted. Lose 2 energy per second for 10 meters. Maybe 10 meters of you. We covered that one. Ammo depletes steadily and battery weapons recharge slowly. You're just not going to take it if you use guns. If you use melee, or you don't care. Exposure curse, shields are removed. Gonna say anyone who wants to use shields is just gonna say no. And some people are just not gonna care, like Canaros. Sanguine Syndrome, you take damage, you suffer a bleed status effect. This is already a Netracell key. Cool, status immunity exists. Corvex pressed 3 and didn't care about that modifier. The bleed status effect, if I recall correctly from that, is... I don't know if it's actually based on the damage you took, so I've never really noticed it ever affecting me. Vampiric Syndrome, you remember the Vampire Key. It's actually a buff. Killing enemies restores your health. The damage per second is inconsequential, and most people tap their operator button and reverse it if really needed. Conductive, you just take random ass electrical damage every few seconds. It's a terrible modifier at all 3 of the places it exists, which is Netracells and Corpus. Do it in the railjack things every now and then. Again, it's not avoidable from the sounds of it in this one, which it is in the Corpus railjacks, and is in the Netracells as long as you don't actually have to stand still at a terminal. When I say you don't have to take these, because this is an important thing. You can only get 20 by 5 by having absolutely all of them going, right? Second, you don't want to take 1, you only need 15, because you're going to be doing 2 runs. Also, you can just rerun this 3 times with a very minor amount of points on the board. Even rerunning this exterminate 5 times with what I've currently got equipped is probably faster than putting it with these other 2 things. Especially alchemy. Alchemy likes alchemy. Probably elsewhere because I've seen it happen in the Netra cells too. There's a thing where the whole thing just freezes and lags out related to, I think, pull abilities being used. That's what that happened in my first attempt, and the host said, fuck it, and left in the middle of it, even as we started to actually come out of the lag or freeze. So that was fun. It's particularly prominent in alchemy because alchemy has a super high enemy density. And so bonus points for having missions that don't are full of bugs still like that, and trying to make people have to stay in 3 of them. Where's the modifiers? The mission variables. Enemy health regenerates slowly, we already discussed. Vampiric Liminus. Immortal things follow you around, draining health and energy. They are affected by CC, apparently. You know, weird half attempt to... D's opinion on CC is all over the place, but I'm sure that's kind of relevant. If they're affected by CC, I can very easily deal with them. Otherwise, they're just an annoying thing that shows up and randomly steals your health energy. Adaptive aberrations. All the enemies get sentient adaptation. That's a challenge, I guess. It encourages variance. I don't know if it's removed by the void damage like the sentience or not. Bolster belligerents. All enemies have overguard equal to 50% of their max health. Throw it in the fucking bin already. Ranged engagement. Only enemies with ranged attacks are present. That would be a positive for most situations. Yeah, if you give me no melee enemies all day with Mesa or Zephyr or Frost, I'll go for that one, Mike. Close quarters. Only enemies with melee attacks are present. There's probably a decent amount of people, like Zephyr again. Can also be completely immune to that. Quite a lot of frames can just easily get completely away from melee enemies. That's actually also beneficial to people with slow abilities. Fortified foes, we did that one, we did that one. Slain enemies burst with void energies. Sure, kill them with ranged weapons. Some of these will jump up and bite you in the ass if they're comboed with other the personal modifiers. Malopic munitions, and that one where 10 meters you start losing energy, and 15 meters you have to be to kill them, for instance. Otherwise, they don't really matter. Elemental enemies deal more elemental damage. That's the sortie one. It's going to depend entirely on the element. Some of them you won't care about because you shouldn't be running those elements in this mission. Other ones you very much will. Again, if there was a variance in the missions and the enemy factions, that have more significance. And bonus Xmas. There's already bonus Xmas, so we heard you like Xmas. We put Xmas in your Xmas. Additional endless missions. Summoning and defeating a rogue necromech Xmas units. They act like you intentionally summon these. Will reduce the mission timer by 45 seconds and survival of mere defense. That's kind of cool. Apparently you can actually do it with a terminal if you want. There's a 50% chance it'll be an Xmas instead of a regular one, with no additional benefit to you if it is an Xmas. Still, like spawn mini boss, kill mini boss, reduce the timer. That's a cool mechanic. That's on the good side of things overall. Elite Archimedias. Oh, I skipped over a section. Deviations. More necromechs appear. If necromechs weren't terrible enemies, that'd be fine. Fissures rip into the mission, causing the enemy to go up by 1 level every 10 seconds. That's just spongy stuff, but you can blow up the fissures apparently to stop that. That depends how aggressive and constant the fissures are, really. That one's not here this week, so I can't tell you. Enemies within 10 meters of each other form a damage-linked group. Surprisingly beneficial modifier in the midst of all this. Enemies take 90% less damage from non-weak point hits. Weak points will be highlighted if this is active. Other than some enemies having really weird weak points, or no weak points, or having tendencies to spin around like insane people, that's fine. I don't know if that means it will give them weak points like Banshee just cast on them or not. Survival life support towers can only activate after 20 enemies have been killed near them. Interesting, but we traditionally have a lot of trouble getting enemies into a particular space. If you mix mash that with some of the all the enemies have overguard, you are just kind of fucked because grouping abilities won't work. Life supports are deliveries, and necromechs, you have to kill a necromech every 9 seconds to get 6 life support modules. Refer to previous cons, but necromechs being terrible enemies, but otherwise fine. Hazardous areas form and activate towers to clear them for your squad. That's infested salvages mechanic, I guess. It's fine, it's gameplay. I'm not going to critique something that's actual gameplay too much unless I've actually played it to tell you it's terrible, and it's not options week. Alchemy, we covered hazardous goods. Enemies equipped with an elemental barrier that can only be destroyed by an amphor of the corresponding element. That's just going to make the mission take longer and longer and longer if they come up with the ones you actually need. If you're designing that, they should specifically only spawn with the barriers that are not the ones you need to put into the amphors. Otherwise, you're creating a time waste. Xmas M4. Xmas always drop the M4, but they're the only ones that do. I don't really like that unless they're consistent, and they're far too random in the spawns. Oracle and Vitrium take damage over time. You have to get the glyphs to halt the degradation and partially heal them. That's down to the numbers, because that can quickly become stupidly unfair if they're overtuned. Glyph inflation. The security system requires too much, is twice as much phosphine to activate. Again, that's forcing difficulty. Like, there should always be a conditional, but you can do this to offset it. Glyph trap. Some of the glossing glyphs just, teleport you across the map randomly. No indication that they're marked or visible in any way. Once one goes off, the portal remains for 45 seconds, so everyone else can also accidentally run into it and go across the map, but at least it's visible at that point. That's just fuck you for playing the game mode the way it's supposed to. My favorite, radioactive breakdown. All enemies are invulnerable, can only take damage when afflicted with radiation status. Just in case you didn't bring radiation into the Murmur mission for some reason. Chirinka pillars will appear randomly and also inflict radiation status. Randomly is the problem there. If they don't spawn in a useful location, then you have to put the enemies in a useful location, and even with gathering abilities, that's hit and miss. Glyphs inflict damage when collected. Probably no one cares. It's probably not enough damage to matter. Coordinated front and assassination. Xmas, I guess the assassination is in here. Xmas units support the fragmented tide in its final form. Sure. They already did. We heard you like Xmas, so we put some more Xmas in. There's already bonus Xmas in all of these. The fragmented tide never stops attacking. I'm not aware that it did stop attacking to begin with, so I assume that's not going to change anything. Void angels fight alongside the final fragmented form. That just seems obnoxious and probably prone to crashing the game, but I can't tell you until I play it. Two fragmented forms in the final battle. That's sort of interesting. I noticed it wasn't two fragmented forms with slightly reduced health like the disruption version. Disruption, all Grizzlings are Xmas. We heard you like Xmas and you're Xmas. Parasitic conduits. Conduits timers paused unless players within 10 meters. More players in range will accelerate the timer. This is you trying to force us to defend the conduits instead of actually making us, like... I've critiqued disruption because defending the conduits is not actually... It's what flashes on screen. It's not actually what you do in the mission, but... I don't think that's quite nailing what you should be going for. It forces one guy to babysit a conduit while the other three go kill the DPS check. Go perform the DPS check. Basically, and see what that is. Random groups are going to not coordinate very well to have the one guy stay behind. You'll get like 3 people staying and 1 running, or 4 running, or... Yeah, that sort of thing. Reward pools went over already. Gold rewards. The Phosphor bundle. Uh, 50 Phosphor is the most you can get. That's in Elite Archimedia. Let's go have a look here. I need to refer to Lloyd. 50 Phosphor.
The very name. Oh, I'll
That's
just
not the right one.
We truly have accumulated a good condition. Shouldn't take long to dissolve.
15 minutes in Steel Path, and I can get you 60 Phosphor. Bonus 10.
Very good, Tenno.
Enough said. The rest of this is Dante, so we don't really care. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff here. I can boil it down to 3 simple TLDRs. Punishing mechanics that have no corresponding offset to them. Many modifiers that either meaningless or they are literally hardcore aimed at one specific frame. Obviously, the whole mission setup here, host migration is just going to be an incredible problem. Many people are going to start migrating immediately after this first mission because of the way you can just build up the points. Because you can just build up the points, actively running with all these doesn't matter. There's just masses and masses of obviously problems in the reward design. Only having Sanctum missions. I'll go over here just quickly double check. That means this is only going to rotate between Exterminate. If I had to guess, the first one will always be Exterminate. The second one will always be an Endless. And then the third one will be Disruption or Assassination. That would be my guess. That's just, it's not interesting. It's single faction. Single faction, single tile set. 6 missions. And you're supposed to be doing these like once or twice a week minimum. If I understand the rewards correctly, you do 1 run. You're supposed to ideally do 1 run with all the modifiers to unlock the deep one, and then do a elite one with all the modifiers to get whatever remaining points. That's my understanding of the rewards. It's a bunch of half-baked ideas thrown into a wall. We can hope it's a test run and they polished it, but even Netrocells were like, so many of them are stuff we should already know. We know you can't chain missions together because host migrations cause problems. We know a single tile set is incredibly boring to do over and over again. That's been the problem with with a lot of the endgame in Warframe is it's grind this one thing on this one tile set. They know the rewards because we had this in the Netrocells. Lantorn, no one cares about Lantorns. Melee arcane adapters are semi-worthless comparatively to the other options. There's nothing that would really induce me to actually care enough to do this mission type on a consistent weekly basis. And that's about it. Like, I not much more to say without getting into the deep weeds and going bit by bit. I could run down a list of every modifier and start coming up with more creative things to do with it, but so can we all. And yeah, just like conflicting designs completely. Make a pre-build squad, playing your build, but here's a random loadout. And random modifiers that may completely fuck a specific warframe.
I was thinking.
Or build. And you cannot dynamically on the fly change your build in Warframe because of how Forma and all that shit works. We're all familiar there. I can get some pretty good universal builds, but even for my Netrocell roulette, which is my Twitch streaming thing, I spin a wheel and pick a random Warframe and load out. I'll go in and play with them to make them work on the Netrocells, because quite often I have to flip some of the weapons around so that I don't get things like the slash damage doesn't work situation. Anyways, that's enough rambling, and I will see what I can do about getting a proper thumbnail for this, and I'll probably have an accompanying post I'll put on the Warframe forums, which I'll link in the description if you want to go upvote that and get into their eyes. And we will pick you up next week. We should have the Loki build video coming in. And you can like and follow for other Warframe stuff on the channel, or the other Let's Plays are on here as well.